Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. Now, I want to start off this talk with a question, similar to the one before. How many of you, within the first few seconds of hearing this quote, feel inspired? I just want a show of hands so I know. Okay, so a couple of us felt that way. Thank you. The reason I asked this question is because that was exactly how I felt the first time I heard it back in 2008. I was a senior in high school, witnessing Obama become the first Black president of the United States. And this left me feeling inspired and empowered. Fast forward a couple of years later, I'm sitting in a restaurant here in South Kensington, thinking to myself, what on earth I wanted to do after graduating from Imperial. Until I was reminded of this quote, and I couldn't help but think of the kind of changes that I wanted to see in the world. Coming from Indonesia, I pride myself for being born in the largest archipelago in the world, a nation comprising of 17,500 islands, 260 million people, 300 ethnic groups, and home to a wide range of species and biodiversity, a nation which stands firm under its pillar of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which means unity in diversity. However, throughout my studies, I've come to learn and I've come to realize that Indonesia is actually one of the most vulnerable countries when it comes to climate change. The National Council of Climate Change predicted that by 2030, our capital city of Jakarta will be underwater. Half of it will be underwater. And on top of that, rising sea levels could wash away around 1,500 of Indonesia's islands by 2050. And so these are staggering truths about what is going to happen due to climate change. And so on top of that, we also have a huge waste problem, as you can see. Indonesia is known to be the second largest plastic polluter in the world, just behind China. And the World Bank predicts that each of Indonesia's population are responsible for 0.8 to 1 kilograms worth of plastic waste per year. This is a picture of a famous surfer who I can't actually recall the name of, but as you can see, he's swimming in the midst of all this rubbish. This was taken just off of Java Island in Indonesia. The next picture is of a seahorse attaching itself to a cotton bud. So here you're able to see the interactions that both humans and also animals, marine animals, have on plastic waste. And so when imagining to myself the kind of changes that I wanted to see in the world, I envision a world where sustainability lies at the center of all human activity, where societies are well equipped with the knowledge necessary to tackle global problems like climate change. A world where we are guaranteed a future in which we can experience nature the way that we do today. And so in realizing this dream and this idea that I had, I, alongside my brother, who's actually in the audience today, I don't know where he went, but if you could just stand up, thank you. We both co-founded a civil society organization called the Indonesian Energy and Environmental Institute, which seeks to tackle this global yet also very personal problem of climate change. However, in doing this and throughout our journey, we've come to realize that being the change that you want to see in the world is actually not as easy as it seems. And along the journey, you're going to face multiple challenges, the discomfort for being constantly pushed far beyond your comfort zones and limits, some roadblocks, failures, judgments, and undermining opinions from other people. And so in recognizing the consequence of simply having a dream, it tends to make one feel fearful or scared, right? But I'm here today to share with you and to tell you how you can be bold in pursuing your dreams, whatever that entails. So, number one, believe in yourself. I cannot stress this enough. How many of you don't have to raise your hands up for this one, but just internalize this question. How many of you in here have said the following things to yourself? I am not good enough. There's no point. There are others who are smarter and more talented than I am. Why bother? I'm not experienced enough. I just can't do this. I'm sure many of us here today have said these things to ourselves, but the first thing that you have to recognize is that in realizing your dreams, you must believe in yourself. Your belief systems, your beliefs in general shapes the way that you think. It shapes the way that you behave and also how you interpret events. And in most cases, they become self-fulfilling prophecies, right? So if you think good thoughts, you will manifest and manifest into your life good experiences. And if you think bad thoughts, you will attract exactly that into your life. So be picky with the way you think and the way that you feel. And on top of that, so that's the first point. The second point is to remind yourself of your why and be resilient. I realize that the more I remind myself of why the things that I do, I become resilient to the kind of challenges that I face in the pursuit of my dreams, right? And so for me, climate change is an issue close to my heart because I believe that when you take care of the environment, you are essentially taking care of yourself. We are taking care of ourselves. And we're also nurturing this future environment where our generation and also future generations to come can live their dreams. Because without a safe and sound environment, we're not able to live to our full potential. And so these are the drives that I feel and kind of remind myself of whenever I feel stuck and facing the challenges that I face. And for those of you here that don't really know what their purpose is and still kind of just questioning yourself, why do I even exist, right? Just notice that this is a very exciting time for you because you are given the opportunity to get to know yourself, to get to know what makes you happy, to get to know what makes you excited and happy, and that makes you look forward to doing what you want to do and what you do in general. And so all of these things combined will lead you to your sense of purpose and to your why. Thirdly, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. I'm going to share with you two stories from my own life of the two uncomfortable situations that I had to deal with in the pursuit of my dreams. This was actually a capacity building session that we had to do as part of our civil society organization program. And we're here educating local communities in Java about the dangers of plastic waste and plastic in general. And this was followed by an activity where we went to the beach and we cleaned the beach together. And so what not a lot of people knew was that I was terrified in doing this, not because I was presenting, but because this was the first time I've ever presented in my own language, in Bahasa Indonesia. And you may think that this is weird for me to even think that this is something to be embarrassed about or, uncomfortable about. But a little bit about myself. I was born in Indonesia, but I grew up in 5 countries and 7 cities. And as a result of that, I am a part of this group of people that's called Third Culture Kid. And I'm sure a lot of you maybe in the audience here today fall under this category. And so you would understand how I feel. And the thing about Third Culture Kids is that we don't fully feel like we belong everywhere because we come from everywhere, right? And so we're constantly confused as to who we are, confused about our identity, and so forth. And so for me to realize my dream, coming back to Indonesia and, you know, educating local communities with my local language was something that I felt like I had to push myself to do. And so what I realized is the more you feel, you know, you learn to feel comfortable with the uncomfortable, you end up, you know, you end up experiencing things that are actually positive for your life, and that is how you grow as well as a person. This as well is also part of our program within the CSO, and this program is aimed to ensure localized prosperity and also general awareness about the environment. And this was taken in South Kalimantan or South Borneo. And although, of course, this sounds really promising and exciting, right? But what not a lot of people knew was that just to get to this location, we had to go through some hurdles. And in some cases, you know, there is no phone service, sometimes even no electricity, right? And so this, I mean, in the beginning, I was uncomfortable in having to go through this. But when I pushed myself and I reminded myself of my purpose, you know, why I'm doing what I'm doing, I became resilient, like I said before, and I thought, you know what, I will just give it a go. And when I went, this was a part of our, we were collecting primary data as well for our research. We were talking to the local communities, and we were greeted with the most warmest smiles. And they were also eager to learn about, you know, this global problem of climate change, which they didn't really understand yet, before. And so, again, you will be greeted with incredible experiences if you just push yourself forward and if you learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. Excuse whatever happened here, guys. All right, so number 4, use your voice. Throughout my acts of service so far, I've been given the opportunity to use my voice in several occasions, you know, ranging, especially in really just advocating for the environment and also inviting other people to be more conscious about their life. And so I've advocated this in, whether it be in universities across Indonesia, to even in COP23, to, you know, at meetings at the United Nations. What is going on, guys? Oh my God. And so, yeah, what I've realized through this experience is that, you know, your voice is powerful. It's predicted that by 2019, there will be around 2.77 billion social media users around the world, right? So I want you here today to recognize the platform that's in front of you. If you're here and you want to, you know, find solutions to cancer, for example, or if you want to eradicate world poverty, right? Why don't you make a documentary about it, make it go viral, and let that attract the attention of the government or people in power? We all have the capability to do that, and we have the luxury of being able to do that, different from our previous generations. We all here have a voice, so use it to, you know, convey the things that you care about and the things that you think matter. Because in my opinion, when you're silent about something, it's equivalent to not caring. It means that you don't care about the issue right in front of you. So, use your voice. And lastly, embrace failure and use it as a tool for success, right? A lot of us here would associate failure to fear. So we associate failure to something that feels uncomfortable, that feels negative. What if I told you that failure will give you the opportunity to grow? It will give you lessons that you won't get anywhere else. And all of a sudden, it doesn't feel like it's a bad thing to really fail, right? And so try and change your perspective to failure, because it's actually not so bad, and this is where you grow, and this is what's meant to push you forward into reaching the success that you're looking for. Right, I've actually reached the end of my talk, but for those of you here who weren't paying attention, kind of dozed off, got distracted by whatever happened here, these are the following points that you have to remember in order to be bold in pursuing your dreams. So number one is to believe wholeheartedly in yourself, right? And number two is to remind yourself of your why you do the things that you do, and be resilient. Don't give up. And number three is get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Look forward to it. And number four is use your voice. Your voice matters. It matters because it can change the world. And number five is to embrace failure and use it as a tool for success. Thank you.